Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. We're back here again live on the channel. For those of you that don't know, my name is Joe. Thanks for hanging out on the channel. Appreciate you guys waiting for me a little bit. Of course, as always, there's got to be some technical difficulties as part of the modern world that we live in. And I went to go fire up the stream and all of a sudden the camera that I used just looked like dog water. It looked horrible. I was getting like 3 frames per second. I was like, we can't have that. So we had to scramble. We used an alternate camera. So things look a little bit different. That's why. But hopefully things are looking and sounding okay to you. Thanks so much for hanging out and joining me on a beautiful Wednesday evening, at least here in LA. It is gorgeous. I think the current temperature is about 67 degrees and it's super clear. So hopefully you all are enjoying a beautiful Wednesday evening wherever you may be watching from. Like I said, my name is Joe, and here we are Wednesday, 6:30, doing our normal thing. We're going to be talking about some real estate things today, and we're going to be talking about how we can keep you guys from getting scammed, make sure people aren't hiding BS terms and fees inside the buyer broker agreement. So if you're someone that is thinking about buying real estate in the next year, this is going to be a super important stream because I'm going to be telling you some things to look for to make sure that when you sign on with a buyer's agent, that you are not getting scammed. So this will be important. So I'm going to pull up the buyer broker agreement. We're going to go through it line by line. I'm going to tell you why we use it. I'm going to tell you what to look out for. I'm going to tell you actually why it's a good thing as well. So stay tuned for that. Before we get into that though, I have a really cool article from homes.com. It's not super long, but it talks about a new community in Bozeman, Montana. And I just kind of thought it was sort of interesting. So we're going to be taking a look at this article and going through that. And the reason it's kind of cool is because it's a net zero co-housing neighborhood. So it works a little bit differently. It's kind of neat. So we'll be taking a quick look at that as well. And of course, you guys know how this works. The best part about live streaming is being able to hang out with all of you really wonderful people and getting able to interact with you guys. So if at any time you guys have questions about the articles we are reading or the topic that we're discussing, or if you guys just have like general real estate questions about buying, selling, leasing, answer them in the chat. Don't go to ChatGPT on me. Don't go to Google. Here's your opportunity to ask a real live real estate agent. And I'll be happy to help you best I can. Let's see. We already have somebody starting it off. Hey, we got David Matty in the house. Hey, David, how's it going, brother? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well out in Omaha. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. Okay, guys. So we're going to get started. And we're going to get started with this little article. So it's from homes.com. This is inside Montana's first net zero co-housing neighborhood, and it pre-sold with no marketing. Now, the reason that we're covering this type of article is because this has to do with sort of a, let me get this. Now you guys can probably see a little better. This type of article, it's kind of cool because it touches on a new way of housing, a new method of housing. And in the climate and day, the times that we're in, where we're having such an affordability issue with housing, is really, really critical and important right now to be able to exercise any and all opportunities that could help the affordability crisis. And so a cohab community is one of those things because it kind of functions with more communal spacing. So like, you'll see it's set on 5.3 acres. It's close to downtown, and it's got like communal kitchens and communal hangout spaces and communal workspaces. So there's some interesting spin to kind of bring that sort of community living, small village lifestyle that we pretty much had for the entire course of history up until we decided, oh, you know what? Single family homes are going to be the new standard. So something interesting to look at. So let's go to Bozeman, Montana. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys. There you go. A few years ago, Paul House was at a transition point in his life trying to decide where he wanted to live next. The Bozeman, Montana native wanted to remain in his hometown, and he knew what traditional single family living might mean for his personal lifestyle. I'm not a huge extrovert, House said. If I'm on a street of single family homes, I'm going to watch people go into the garage, and that's the last time I'm going to see them. I wanted more of a social network than that. And that's so true, right? How many of us out there, we pay all this money to live in a great community, this nice place to raise our family, safe community. And like, how often do you even interact or talk to your neighbors? Like maybe once or twice a week. And so for a lot of people, it's like, no, I want to be a part of something where, it's more social. It's more of a community environment where, we're all kind of, helping with things and more active. The 58-year-old entrepreneur wasn't religious, but he craved the kind of instant community and ready support that faith groups can offer by gathering members in proximity. So when House heard that Bozeman was on the brink of getting its first co-housing community, a compact neighborhood of privately owned homes and shared common areas, he was interested. Although the net zero neighborhood was still roughly a year away from completion, it was almost entirely pre-sold through word of mouth. Real estate agents weren't involved. House said the units just sold themselves, with some buyers even moving to Bozeman specifically for that project. So the cool thing about that is like, you can see, like, if you build something that people want, they will come. If you build it, they will come. And here's a great example when it comes to housing, where it's like, something that's not just another townhome, another 3-story townhome, another 2,800 square foot, 4-bedroom home on a 1/4 acre lot. It's like that people can't afford. It's like finally something that's a little bit different, a little bit more unique, and maybe something that maybe really excites people. But but by the time the Bozeman co-housing popped on House's radar, there's only one unit still available, and he was the second in line for a chance to make a deposit. He got lucky, and when he got word that the 2-bedroom residence was all his, he wrote a check with no hesitation, he said. So here's neighborhood includes private residences and space for community use, including the atrium. So kind of some of the communal areas you can kind of see, which is kind of interesting. Like, I don't know, like this one has a communal kitchen. Just kind of interesting to see how people utilize that space. Like, for some people, it's going to be great. And some people are going to be like, no, I want my own stuff, which, I get it. But that's the whole point, right? Like, have something for everyone. When House closed on his co-housing residence, he'd scooted in right at the end, leapfrogging about 5 years of meetings and planning. All that planning began in May 2019, when a kickoff meeting brought together founding members and individuals curious about co-housing across the city. That included Cadius Partners, the development builder, and Studio Cohab, the project architect. In my experience, people kind of have a bit of a fuzzy understanding of co-living or co-housing, said Eric Bonnet, co-founding principal of Studio Cohab. The architect, who also lives in Bozeman co-housing with his family, noted that sometimes people think of communes when they hear the term co-housing, but many U.S. co-housing neighborhoods operate more like condominiums, where people own their spaces and share common areas. In co-housing, he detailed, people come together with the intention of knowing and to some extent caring about their neighbors. In a lot of ways, it's a return to this idea of the village. And again, for some people, they're going to be like, heck no, don't want that. And others are going to be like, heck yes, this is great. This is wonderful. And again, it's about having something for everyone. It's a characteristic that might feel familiar to residents of older U.S. neighborhoods, Bonnet said, but a lot of the neighborhoods that we've built in this country in the last 50 to 80 years have really focused on design for the automobile at the expense of design for the human, which, hey, I'm a car guy and I love my cars, but they're certainly not wrong. I mean, look at the way that so many of our suburbs are designed. They are designed because the first forethought is, well, the first thing you do in the morning is you're going to get in your car and you're going to leave to go somewhere. Like, that's how the day starts. And that's a new thing as of about not even 100 years ago. So interesting twist on things. So here you have an idea where these are all, privately owned properties and with a lot of communal space. So yeah, much more like a condominium. The project is Montana's first net zero housing community. We don't need to go over all this stuff, but it's going to be very, very energy efficient. You can see some photos. It's a very nice design. It's very nice. It looks very good. So you can see that this is a design workshops with future residences. So you can see here, this is an example. Very nice, very modern. When it comes to pricing, co-housing homes typically cost more than other new condos or townhomes, thanks to the shared amenities, according to the neighborhood's website. When development neared opening in 2023, the units were priced from $300,000 to $700,000. KBZK reported. Residents also pay monthly dues for maintenance, community investment, and utilities, including cable and internet. House pays about $375 a month, which he thinks is probably in the middle of the cost ranges. Visitors and residents can drive around the neighborhood if needed, but cars mostly stay near the entrance. The design nudges people to walk around, running into neighbors as they go. The car-free connection was a priority for Carol Thompson, a retired professor of economics and international finance. So, getting a handle on automobiles and cars, which obviously face a way that, we design our communities. So again, you can see, this is nice. They're more than just townhomes or condos, but you can see, they're pretty close together. You're certainly going to be in proximity with your neighbors. And for people that, like that, could be a great avenue or opportunity. Again, more pictures of the communal space. So again, the community has residents from different walks of life, and that's what it's all about, right? Like getting this mix, and that's how you really, really get a great neighborhood. For a senior to have infants around and 1-year-old kids knocking at the door and a bunch of dogs, it's very nice. And that's one of the things. There's lots of studies that talk about how, when we get older people living in a tight-knit community with younger people, it really is a huge benefit to both younger, but definitely the older person. And it really does help keep them a lot younger. And there's been some health benefits cited to go along with that. So just kind of interesting to see how these people are doing it. So that is inside Montana's first net zero co-housing community. Looks nice. Looks like a nice place if that's something that you're into. So kind of interesting. Do you guys think that there's going to be more of these? Do you guys think that, we'll see sort of more sort of outside the box type of living communities as opposed to your big, tract homes? Again, it's probably not for everybody, but let me know, would you guys live in one of these types of co-housing communities? Would you think that like, hey, it would be great to have a little bit more community, have a little bit more involvement, and, just have a little bit more interaction, among different community members? So if it's something that you guys like, let me know. Or if it's something you think this is ridiculous, I'd never go for it, I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments. All right, guys. So we're going to switch gears. I just wanted to cover that one really quick because I thought that article was cool. So now we've got some good time left, and I'm going to pull up my software. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go over the buyer broker agreement. There's a ton of names for this document, but we talked about this a little bit in 2024 when this was all happening with the commission lawsuit and settlement. So the reason that we have these buyer broker agreements, and they are also called buyer representation and broker compensation. You'll also hear buyer representation agreements. You'll hear BBA, all sorts of different things, but basically they're all the same. And the reason this form came to be is because of a lawsuit. Now, this form was available when there was a lawsuit. I'm going to bring it up so you guys can see it. So here it is. This was available. And actually, I'm going to start up here. This was available for a very long time before the lawsuit started. But once the DOJ made that lawsuit, they basically said, hey, you guys have to use one of these. It is now it's a requirement. And the DOJ said that agents have to have an agreement in place in writing with any buyers. And the reason the DOJ mandated that is because they said, well, when someone who's going to sell a house employs an agent, one of the very first things they do is they sign an agreement. And that agreement outlines the agent's duties. So when you're thinking about selling your house, you call an agent out, they come out, they're probably going to give you what we call a comparative market analysis. It's going to tell you what your neighborhood's doing, maybe what your home is worth at the present market. And it's also going to tell you the fee that agent's going to charge to sell your home. It's going to tell you how they get paid on that fee. Do they get paid just for finding a buyer? Do they get paid for accepting an offer? Do they get paid for closing the deal? And how much is that pay going to be? Plus the basic duties that the agent has to provide to the seller, and some basic expectations from the agent of the seller and the client. So it's a nice document that basically outlines everything and firms up an agreement so it's clear. Well, prior to this lawsuit, if you were a buyer and you went to go hire an agent to work for you to help you buy a house, there was no agreement. There was nothing in writing. There was nothing that outlined the agent's duties. There was nothing that talked about pay or compensation. And it was just very vague. In fact, I had a lot of buyers say to me, Joe, how do you make your money? Like, you're helping me buy a house, but you've never told me that I have to pay you anything. So then I would go into explaining it. So now we have this form that is up on your screen. And this is mandated. It's a requirement. So anytime you're with a licensed realtor who is a part of the National Association of Realtors, which is a large majority of real estate agents, a large majority are realtors, they're going to have to put this form in front of you. So if you have an agent and you want to go see a house and this agent says, hey, I'm happy to go show you that house, but first you have to sign something, they are not scamming you. Okay. That is not the scam. Okay. The scam is not, I need you to sign this so that I can show you homes. That they absolutely are supposed to do that. If they don't do that, it's very likely that they're in trouble. Not necessarily, but they probably are. So that's the first thing, is that when you contact an agent to see a house, don't be alarmed if they say, hey, due to these new rules and regulations, you have to sign this form. I know for buyers, that's a red flag, like the alarm bells go off, but I'm going to show you when your alarm bell should go off and when the red flag should go up versus when a red flag should not go up on that. Okay. So that's the basic reason for why we even have this form in the first place, right? It's so that buyers and their agents agree. So you're thinking about buying a house maybe in 2026, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to start researching. It's December. I want to buy a house in, April, May, June, and I want to get ready. I want to get pre-approved. I want to know what's going on. I want to start looking for agents to help represent me. First off, that's a great first step. You absolutely should look for a local agent in the market that you're looking in to help represent you. And in this stream, we're not talking about how to choose an agent, how to find an agent, how to interview an agent. Well, we can include that on a different stream. Today, we're just going to be basically talking about this agreement and what to look out for. So let's get into the agreement, shall we? And guys, like I said, if at any time you guys have questions, comments, concerns, put them into the chat. I'm happy to help. So first and foremost, we have this first form. This is the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. And this used to be the form that kind of was the important one. This one says like, hey, this is what a seller's agent does, right? You can see that here. Hey, this is what a buyer's agent does. You'll notice how they're almost exactly the same. I can't highlight on this form, but you'll notice how basically they're almost exactly the same. And essentially what this is saying, these two brackets are basically saying, listen, agents owe you, the client, a fiduciary duty. What is a fiduciary duty? Well, fiduciary duty basically means that the agent needs to act in good faith in all aspects of the way that they serve you. So the agent has to, make every effort to the best they can do, can't conceal pertinent details and facts from you. If they know pertinent facts about the property, they have to tell you. A duty of honest and fair dealing in good faith. Basically, the way that I describe it is like fiduciary duty for me is basically treating a client like they're my brother, mom, wife, family member, something like that. And most people are like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's basically all this outlined. It just says that, hey, this is what a seller's agent does. This is what a buyer's agent does. But it doesn't really get further into that. And so here you'll see like your name. I put John Doe here. Then you'll have the brokerage's name and then your agent's name and license numbers here. But this is not the buyer broker agreement. This just goes with it. Now you can see here's all the legal mumbo jumbo, right? This is all the attorneys doing their thing. Doesn't this look like fun to read? It sure does, doesn't it? So this is all of the legal explanation for the first page. It's all fun stuff. So this is the actual buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. So we call it in California a BRBC. In many, many areas, you'll hear it called a BBA. That stands for buyer broker agreement. But they'll all kind of mean the same thing. Now, I will tell you that this is a California Association of Realtors form. So not every single buyer broker agreement will look like this. This is a California generated form. So if you're watching and you're in Missouri or Montana or Florida, chances are it's going to look different. So keep in mind that when I explain these things to you, this is coming from a California point of view. Now, a lot of these are very, very similar, but they are not standard throughout like the whole nation. But Still, the tips I'm giving you and the things to look out for will probably remain true in your local area and state. So just keep in mind, and it's good to still ask your agent about some of these things when you're going through it with them. All right. So the very first thing you're going to see at the very top, there's going to be a date prepared. Now, when it comes to a contract, if this date is not here, that's a problem. And especially if this date is missing as well. And we'll get to that in a second. But date prepared here, and right off in paragraph number 1, it's going to say right to represent. So this should be the client's name. This is probably where you're going to see your name. So here, the client is John Doe. And then I work for Concierge Realty Group, and I am John Doe is my client. He said, Joe, I like you. I want to work with you. Let's draft up an agreement. So here it is. Now, if this person was a corporation, an LLC, or a partnership, this box could be checked, and it does mean a few different things, but we're not going to worry about that because we're just going to be talking about sole individual buyers. So all these boxes, this is really the main important part of the buyer broker agreement. So in the very first portion, you're going to see the representation period. And remember, guys, the reason that we're talking about this is because if you agree to this agreement and you agree to pay your buyer broker and you buy a house with someone else, you are legally on the hook to pay them a commission. And I will get into that and I'll tell you how that works. But this is why I want you guys to understand this form and this document, because there can be some ways where agents mess with you. That's one of the angles of the scam. And the other reason it's very important is because you could be roped into being liable for a very large commission payment if you don't understand what you're doing. So put those hearing aids on, get a glass of water, make some notes, pay attention, especially if you're thinking about buying a house in the next year. So here we have it, guys. Here's the representation period. So this agreement begins today and it ends on 11/59 on 12/31/2025. This time period is completely negotiable. If any agent says, oh no, this is a standard time period, this is what it is, this is the minimum, this is the maximum, whatever, think very carefully about that. Read the details and don't be afraid to ask questions on that. Here in California, the buyer broker agree that if buyer is not a corporation, an LLC, or a partnership, the representation period shall end on either the ending date specified above or 90 days from the beginning date, whichever is sooner. So if this date was missing, it would be 90 days from here. And this is for California. This is one of the areas. Here we go. Pro tip. Here's the first anti-scam tip, guys. The first anti-scam tip is that if this date is not filled in, you're committed for 90 days. Do you want to be committed for 90 days? If you do, then it's not a problem. But if you meet an agent and you think to yourself, oh, you know what? I just want to maybe let's just work together for a week. Why don't you show me houses for a week? Let's see how you work. And then if I like you, we can extend, we can have a longer relationship and you can represent me on the purchase. Great, no problem. If that's the case, then this should say December 24th. If the agent goes, oh, don't worry. This is just the date that it starts. But if you want out in 10 days, I'll let you out in 10 days. We don't need to put a date here. No, don't go for that. Insist that you put a date right there. If this is completely blank and looks like this, I got news for you. This is an invalid contract. You cannot have a contract without consideration and timeline. So if this beginning period is blank and this ending period is blank, but all the rest of this is filled out, that is an incomplete agreement. That is not a contract, and this is invalid. And not that it'll make much difference to you as the buyer, because it's the agent that is in violation for not being in compliance, not you as the consumer. However, if your agent can't even fill out the dates on a buyer broker agreement appropriately, they either are trying to scam you off the bat or they suck at what they're doing. So if you ever get one of these agreements and the dates are completely blank, yeah, it could be a typographical error, but probably not, because this is a really, really important field. So if anybody is giving this to you blank, you might want to consider right then and there about signing a buyer broker agreement with that agent, because clearly that agent is not paying attention. Maybe they're a little bit sloppy, or maybe they just don't have a ton of experience. So first and foremost, you got to have a beginning date. You don't have to have an end date, but you really, really should. And that end date should make sense for what you want. So if you only want to work with the agent for 2 weeks, then it should be 2 weeks. If you don't care and you want to work with the agent for all 90 days or whatever the legal maximum is, then leave it blank. That's fine. All right, guys. A2, this is a really, really big one. This tiny little line, right? A2 talks about 4B, type of representation. So you can see by default, it's non-exclusive. Or if you check this box here, it says exclusive. Valid only if checked and initialed in paragraph 15. So you think, wow, like it's so important, but it's such a small portion. Okay, guys, when this agreement is not checked, when this one little box is not checked, that means that you as the buyer, even if you sign and agree to this, it means that you can use other agents. If it's non-exclusive, this is a non-exclusive agreement. That means that even if this is signed and you have this agreement filled out with an agent, it's non-exclusive. That means that you could have the same exact type of agreement signed with a different realtor. So you could have a buyer agreement with realtor A. You could also have a buyer agreement with realtor B, as long as they are both non-exclusive. If one is exclusive and one is non-exclusive, doesn't work. So a lot of times this box will be checked. Most real estate agents are going to have this box checked because they want you to exclusively work with them. Now, that is not a problem. And I would suggest that you do work exclusively with an agent. There's a couple different reasons for that, and happy to explain those if you guys want me to. Just let me know in the comments. But it's usually a good idea to have exclusive representation because that way the client knows that you are committed to them, and you know that as the client, the agent is committed to you. If that box is not checked, and I'm going to tell you this from the point of view of an agent. So I'm an agent and I'm working with clients, and I got multiple clients. You know, most agents are not just working with one client. They probably have 10 to 20 that they're working with at any given time, just like your doctors, lawyers, dentists, mechanics, things like that. And let's say you're looking for a house, and let's say you're looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot home between 500,000 and 650,000. Okay, very generic, right? And you come up to me and say, Joe, I really want your help. I really want your help. I want your help to find this house. But I'm also working with, Agent John over here, and he's helping me look for the same thing. So whoever finds it first for me, they can get the sale. They can work with me. Now you think, oh, that's great. Look, I have pitted these agents against each other. They're going to work hard. In reality, what that's doing is that agent's going, okay, I've got these people that want to work with me, but they're not committed to me. I've got 12 other clients that are actually committed to working with me, that are my clients, that are only working with me, that are going to do business with me. Well, guess what? If a 3-bed, 2-bath home comes up that fits the search criteria perfectly, who do you think that agent is going to tell first? Who do you think that agent's going to pay closer attention to when they're talking about writing an offer, doing things? They're going to be paying attention to the client that is exclusive to them because they know that they're going to be loyal. Whereas the other client who maybe has 2 or 3 of these non-exclusive agreements floating around town, well, they're playing the field, right? It's kind of like dating, right? Like once you know you're exclusive with somebody, you're committed to each other, you're more committed to that relationship. It's probably going to be a strong relationship. Whereas, if you're just playing the field and going out on the town and talking to whoever, people are going to be like, well, I don't know if I want to get involved with that person because they might just leave or not be loyal to me. So this is a very, very important box, and it's up to you on what you want to do. There are some cases to be non-exclusive, and but most cases are to be exclusive. But just be aware. I'm not telling you that either one is right or wrong. And the scam portion is not exclusive versus non-exclusive. The scam portion is that this is a very, very small box. It's one tiny little line in this whole jargon of text, right? So the scam tip is just be aware of this. Be aware of this box. Be aware of that facet of the agreement. All right. So then we're moving on and you can select by property type. So you could say like, oh, Joe, I'm only going to work with you from December 17th through January 17th. You get 1 month. It is exclusive. I will commit to you for 1 month, but I'm only looking for vacant land with you. So if I check vacant land, this only applies to vacant land listings, right? So, something to think about. Won't make a huge difference. Most people are just going to be like single family residential, right? That's like your garden variety detached home. So just be aware that you can specify. So for instance, you might say, hey, I've got this one agent and I know that there's some areas like Florida where like, hey, I've got this one agent that specializes in condos and I might want to buy a small little house, but I might also want to buy a condo. Well, this agent's really, he's like the condo king. Okay, I'm going to sign with this agent exclusively for condos. I'm going to sign with this agent exclusively for single family homes, right? So like that's the type of agreement. So that's why they have these types of checkboxes, right? And then of course, this is fun. There's the free response where you can just pick the following specified properties only. Okay. So this is going to be another scam tip, guys. Let's say you're a buyer and you find a property online and you really love it and you want to go look at it. So you call the agent or you're on Zillow and you click request a tour, which by the way, when you click request a tour on Zillow, you're not talking to a local agent. You're also not talking to the listing agent. When you click request a tour on Zillow, you are getting funneled to whatever Zillow agent is paying to have you funnel to them. So just keep that in mind. If you want to contact the listing agent directly, homes.com is the best source for that, in my opinion. So let's say you contact an agent, you find the house, call up the agent, say, hey, Agent John, I want you to show me 123 First Street in Los Angeles, California. I'm really interested. I really want to see it. And that agent goes, okay, no problem. I'd be happy to show you that property. But as you know, with the new rules, you have to sign this buyer broker agreement first in order for me to show you the property. And you think, well, shoot, I just want to see the one house. Like now I got to make this agreement. I got to do this paperwork. It's got to be exclusive and I got to be committed to this person. No, what you'd want to do is you first want to ensure that this representation period is a small period. So if you're just meeting with the person to check out one home, you've never met the agent before, you don't know if you even like them or if they're any good, well, then this period should be maybe only 1 day or 2 days. You could certainly make this agreement expire tonight. If this is 12/17 to 12/17, it would only be valid for this 1 day at 11:59 p.m. This agreement is worthless and useless. So pay attention to that. Also, if you only want to see one specific property, put that in the agreement. Put in 123 First Street, Los Angeles, CA, right? Boom. Now this agreement only pertains to this specific property on this specific day. What does that do? That keeps you from getting locked into a longer term agreement with this particular agent. So again, if this specific box is filled out or if this specific area is filled out and this box is checked, it's only for that one property. So pro tip for you guys, if you're going to look at property and you're going to go look at it with an agent, but you don't want to commit to that agent, you want to make sure that this period is very, very low and that this box is checked with the specific address in it. That will make it so that you only have to work with that agent for that one property. And if you do like that property, you probably should work with that agent, right? Like they took your phone call, they made the appointment, they arranged the showing, they took their time, they opened the property, they showed it up for you. They're probably giving you comps. They're probably, counseling you about pros and cons of the property, the neighborhood, the area, all that good stuff. So if you do like that property, you should work with them and get them paid. Okay, so location, we can also change by location. So this is a really good one too. So let's say you're in my area, right? My area, let's do this. For those of you that don't know, although there's only 3 people watching and you're probably all friends and family, so I'm sure that you all probably are aware of this, but for the people on the replay that maybe aren't familiar with where Claremont, California is, which is where I'm located, go to Google Maps real quick. I'm gonna share this tab instead. All right, guys. So this is, let's do Los and all right. This area in red is Los Angeles County. You can see, and I'm going to zoom in on Claremont. All right, guys. So this is Claremont. This is downtown Claremont. You can see that's my pin. This is my office. So this is where I work. That is not my house, but this is where I work. That's my Google business page. And this is Claremont. You can see the red dotted line is right here. This is the town of Upland. This is the town of Claremont. On one side is LA County. On the other side is San Bernardino County. I'll do you one further. Down here, if you come to this area, Riverside County picks up right here and goes east. Orange County picks up right here and goes this way. We also have LA and San Bernardino County. So this area, like there's like 4 counties that all kind of mix right in this area. So let's say, I'm going to go back to my other tab real quick. So let's say you go, oh, well, you know, Joe is really good at Los Angeles and San Bernardino County, but I also might want to look in parts of Orange County. And I would tell that client, you know, I have sold in Orange County before. I actually have a client that's trying to buy something, well, just next to Orange County right now, but that's not my bread and butter. And I would tell the client, okay, well, guess what? Let's get rid of this. And you can work with me. And you know what? Our agreement will only be for Los Angeles. Oops, I got caps lock on. Yikes. Makes me look insane. Los Angeles and San Bernardino. So this agreement means that I am only this person's exclusive agent. And let's just say it's for a month. So for 1 month, from 12/17 to 1/17, the exclusive box is checked. I'm exclusively the agent, but only for this client in Los Angeles and San Bernardino counties. And then that way, that client can go make an exclusive agreement for Orange County with a different agent. And that way they can say, hey, I've got my agent in Orange County. I've got my agent in San Bernardino and LA County. They both know about each other. They both know I'm looking at both places. And they both know that I'm only working with them in those respective areas. This is a good thing. It is good to be transparent, open, and honest. Everybody knows what the plan is. Everybody knows what the expectations are. And then I know if I'm the LA County area agent and I get a phone call that goes, hey, Joe, just want to let you know I bought a house in Orange County with a different agent. I'm not like, what? Why'd you do that? I've been helping you all this time. I put so much time and energy and effort into you. And I didn't get the sale. Well, at least now I know ahead of time. And also, so does the other agent. So location can sometimes be helpful, especially if you're looking in different counties. You can also do the same with cities. So if you have one agent that's really, really, really good in one specific city, and then maybe there's another agent that's really, really good in another city, maybe 20 minutes away, and you want to work with both, that's how you can do that. So again, something to, just be aware of. You can also do an additional description, like I only want to work with this agent. This is only for like duplexes only. And this is one of the things I like about real estate is you can just kind of put whatever you want into the agreement to make it work. It's nice. You can kind of like, if you can think it up and put it in writing and you agree to it, for the most part, it works. There's a couple other fields here. This one is just properties excluded from representation. So this is a good one. Maybe you are, you have a specific property. I'm going to put 123 First Street, Claremont, CA. Right? And you say, hey, I want this to be included. And the agent might go, well, why? Or why would you want that? Well, let's say that your neighbor is an older guy. Maybe you're renting the property and next door he lives there and owns the house. And maybe he comes up to you and says, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about selling. I really like you guys. I would be willing to sell you my home directly and give you a shot off market if you'd like. And you go, hey, that's great. Your house might be a little too small. It might need a little too much work, but you know what? That would be great. And I might be interested in that. Let me maybe look at some other homes first, make sure I like your home. And if I like your home, maybe I'll buy it. You go to an agent and you say, hey, I want to go look at a home that came up in a different city. And that agent goes, okay, great. Just sign this exclusive buyer representation agreement, and I would be happy to go take you to look at that home. And then you think, oh man, if I sign this agreement, Joe said, if I sign this agreement, any home that I buy that falls into the categories here, I have to pay this agent a commission. But if I work directly with the owner, I don't have to pay a commission. It's going to save me some money. Well, what you should do is that you should put the address of your neighbor's home in this field. That way, the agent knows, okay, any home you buy, if you enter this agreement, I'm going to represent you and I'm going to make my commission or compensation, except if you buy that house that you've already identified. So basically what this does is this gives like a reservation on this property. And basically it's like a first right of refusal. Basically says, okay, client, you owe me if I successfully sell you a house, unless it's this one specific house, because you have omitted it from our agreement. So this can be a very useful field, a very useful addition to the contract if you have a specific property that you've already identified. And that will keep you out of having to pay a commission. If you go, oh, wait, no, I was already talking to that guy before I even knew you. I knew the seller of the house personally before I ever knew the agent, yet now, the agent's taking a commission on it. All right, guys, let's get to the big one. It's midway down the page, amount of compensation. So this is the amount that your buyer's agent, this is the maximum amount your buyer's agent can make on the property. It also explains how they're going to get paid. So in this case, the most common is that this box is filled in. And you'll see here, right here, it says 2.5%. This number, as you'll see in all this bold, broker compensation, notice the amount of real estate commissions is not fixed by law. They are set by each broker individually, and they may be negotiable between buyer and broker. See the attached advisory. This could be any number under the sun. It could be 1%. It could be 20%. It could be 0, and it could be 10,000 down here. It could be anything. You want to pay very, very close attention to this field, because this is the amount of money that you could potentially be on the hook for, legally responsible for, if something happens in the transaction and the buyer's agent sells you a house and the seller says, I'm not paying, or you buy a house with someone else and the agent says, oh, look, we have this agreement. You bought a house, but you didn't do it with me, and you agreed to pay me 3% of the purchase price. Oh, what's 3% of 800,000? Was it 20 some odd $1,000, $18,000, whatever it is? Boom. That's how the client in last week's stream got nailed for, what was it, $20,000. They had an agreement. They said they were going to pay 3%. The agent said, hey, my fee's 3%. And the clients agreed to it. And they turned around, went out, bought a house with someone else. They closed on the house. The agent said, hey, guess what? You owe me 3%. The agreement is you pay me 3% when you buy a home because I work for you. What happened? The real estate agent took that client to court, put up this contract in front of the judge and said, hey, judge, I got a contract that says if this person buys a home, we have an exclusive agreement. I am their agent. They are my client. This agreement says if they buy a house and it is exclusive, they got to pay me 3% of the sales price of the home that they purchased. The judge looked at it and said, yep, that's exactly what this agreement says. You promised to work with this agent. You promised that they would get paid 3%. You broke that promise. Guess what? You still owe them money. The amount of money that you owe them is fully dependent upon what is in this box right here on your screen. Like I said, there's ways that you could structure compensation. It could be a percentage. It might be both. It might be 1% and $5,000, right? or it might be 1% and $500, or it might be no percent and it might just be a flat rate of 10,000, right? There you go. So it's not a percentage, it's a flat rate. It just all depends on what you negotiate. These numbers are all negotiable. You can negotiate them. They have never been fixed by law. They have always been negotiable. Even before the commission lawsuit, I know a lot of people are like, oh, look, now we can negotiate commissions. Well, you could negotiate them before. They've always been negotiable. So, or you could check this box and there could be an attached broker created compensation schedule. And this could be something completely different. This could be like, hey, I'm going to charge you hourly, and I'm going to charge you if you buy a home. I'm not going to charge you a commission, a percentage, or anything like that. I'm just going to charge you, $200 an hour. And when I show you a house, if that takes an hour, it's $200. If I show you a house and it takes 30 minutes, that's $100. And here is the schedule of how I get paid hourly. Or it could even be by the service. Hey, I charge you $500 to write an offer. Hey, I charge you $500 to show up at a home inspection. Hey, I charge you $1,000 to explain disclosures to you, whatever it may be, right? So there's lots of flexibility. There's lots of negotiating when it comes to this. And the important anti-scam tip in this section here is that just know that this is all negotiable. Just know that you can get very creative with fee structure. Just know that you are not locked into any amount or percentage by law or by anything. Now, the broker might say, my fee is 3%. That's what I work for. And if you don't like that, then I don't work for anything less. The broker is completely allowed to say that. They are within their rights to say that. They can work for whatever amount they want. But if they say this is the minimum amount, that's when it could be a problem. Now, they could say this is the minimum amount I charge. That's fine. But if they just say, oh, this is the minimum, then it makes it look like it's a standard or an industry minimum, or it's fixed by rules or regulations, which would be not the case. So just remember that. Okay, this next box here says payments received by broker from sellers or others. If broker receives compensation from the seller or others for broker's representation of buyer, the amount shall be credited against buyer's obligation to pay broker. Broker shall not receive any amount in excess of the amount specified in paragraph 2E. Two very important sentences, guys. Two really important sentences. So this first sentence here says that if we make this agreement, so I'm going to make it easy. Let's say this agreement is exclusive and it's $10,000, right? So if I sell my client a home, someone's got to pay me $10,000. I don't care if it's the buyer, I don't care if it's the seller, I don't care who it is. Someone pays me 10 grand to represent them. Let's say we write the offer and the buyer goes, hey, can we ask the seller to pay you the 10 grand? You said it didn't matter where it came from. You just need to get paid your fee. And I go, absolutely. We can ask the seller to do that. In fact, most sellers are still paying the fee of the buyers. Well, if we put that in the offer and then the seller says, yes, I'll pay the fee, I can't go back to my buyer and say, hey, guess what? The seller said that they're going to pay me the $10,000 fee, but we still have an agreement that you are contractually obligated to pay me $10,000. And now I'm going to get 10K from you and I'm going to get 10K from them. And now I'm getting 20K. Well, that's not fair. That's not right. That's not appropriate. So this clause says that if the seller pays me or anyone else, and it is specifically for buyer representation, then that amount has to be applied towards the buyer. So what could happen is the seller might say, hey, I see that that the buyer wants me, the seller, to pay for $10,000 worth of representation. I don't want to do that. I'll pay you $5 grand. I'll pay half. I'll pay $5 grand. Well, that means that the buyer is now only responsible for $5,000. I can't make them responsible for the entire amount. So that's the first portion that's very important in this area, is that basically I can't double dip. I can't get commission from the seller and the buyer. Now, I can double dip if the seller is my client and I have an agreement with them and they are paying me to sell their home, and I have an agreement with the buyer and they're paying me to buy a home for them. But if I only have an agreement with the buyer and the seller pays my fee, I can't double dip. I can't get payments from both people. I know that this is a little bit complicated, and this is like some really intricate detailing. If you guys have questions about anything, just put them in the chat, put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Please don't be afraid if you think you have a stupid question, because this is kind of complicated. I do this every day. This is probably the first time you've ever looked at this form in your life. So if you do have questions, please, please, please tell me. The other important part is broker shall not receive any amount in excess of the amount specified in this paragraph. So if I say, here's a good one. Let's get off the flat rate. If I say, hey, I want 2% for my fee. I want 2% of the sales price. And we get into an offer, and maybe there's a house that's been sitting on the market for 5 months, and the seller says, hey, buyer's agents out there, I'll give you 3% to bring a buyer. Get my house sold. I need my house to be sold so that I can buy another house, move, be closer to family, whatever, right? I'll give you 3%. And I go, oh boy, 3%, that's a whole percent more. Great, I can't wait to sell this house. Well, my agreement is only for 2%. I cannot make more than that because that is what I've agreed to already. So you think to yourself, well, what happens to the 1%? The seller says, I'm already giving you 3. Buyer says, well, and I can say, well, I can only take 2. That 1% could potentially go to the buyer, or it could get negotiated. Maybe it goes to some closing costs. Maybe we bring the sales price down a little bit, but we negotiate. So that's why this is important, because if there's any overages or excess, it doesn't just go to the agent. It goes to the client. All right, so let's move on to the continuation period. And guys, I know it seems like there's a lot more, but honestly, the rest of this stuff is kind of like just a bunch of jargon. There's no scamming that's going to go on in here. This is all just like advisory stuff. This is all important stuff for you to know, but this isn't scammy stuff. You can't really be like changed. You can't change stuff here. This is the area where you can fill things in where like someone could try to like really scam you or fool you or rope you into something that you didn't want to be roped into. Okay, continuation period. So a lot of times you'll see 90 days here. Sometimes you'll even see 120 days. Oh, not 1,290. Sometimes you see 120. Sometimes you might just see 20 days. Who knows, right? But what this means, what is the continuation period? A continuation period would be this. So let's say I take you to buy a home. I take you to look at a home. And you go, dude, wow, we really like this home. It's great. And you're like, man, I think I want to buy it. And you tell the agent, hey, you know what? I really like it. I'm going to think about it. And maybe I'm going to come back to the open house on the weekend. You see it on a Thursday. There's an open house on Saturday. You say, I'm going to go back. And I, as your agent, go, yeah, that's a great idea. Go back to the open house, take another look, take your friends, family, mom, dad, take whoever you want. You go back on Saturday and you maybe talk with the agent. And the listing agent says, hey, you know, if you work directly with me, I'll cut you a break. I'll get you a good deal, right? I'll get you a deal. And you go, oh, that would be great. I'd love to get a deal. I'll work directly with you. And you go, oh, shoot, I've got this buyer broker agreement. I already signed this agreement with my agent. I can't just go work with you. This is the whole point of the agreement. And you go, oh, but I know that agreement, it ends in 6 days. In 6 days, it expires. I don't have to re-sign it. I don't have to do anything. And then once it's over, I'll just come back to you, Mr. Listing Agent, and we'll put the deal together and we'll save a bunch of money. And the listing agent goes, great. I'm going to get a bigger commission. I'm going to get a sale. The buyer's agent goes, oh, wonderful. I'm going to save a little bit of money. And the seller says, I don't care. The house is getting sold. Well, that would be a little dirty, because this continuation period, if it's say 60 days, basically this says that after our agreement ends, any property that I showed you during the time this agreement was valid, for the next 60 days, if you buy one of those properties, I get paid. It doesn't mean that I get paid for doing nothing. It means I will work for you. I will be your agent and work for you on the transaction. But it means that I get first right of fees. You have to come to me and say, hey, this house, I know our agreement is expired, but this house that you showed me 32 days ago, while our agreement was active, I really like and it's available. I want to buy it. Boom, it falls under that continuation period, and I would still get to represent you as the agent. The reason we do this is because the reason this continuation period is in here is to prevent that scenario. It's to prevent the scenario of a buyer's agent working with a client for 2.5 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a house coming up, and then basically the buyer and the seller or the seller's agent figure out, create a way to cut out the buyer's agent so that the seller's agent can make more money, the seller can make more money, whatever. So that's why that continuation period is there. Anything over 60 days, I would be a little suspect about. But again, it's just the continuation period. This does not mean for any new properties. If your buyer's agent agreement expires on December 1st and you're like, great, it's expired, agent, it was great, don't like you, I'm going to go work with a new agent on December 2nd. And on December 2nd, that agent shows you a home that you've never seen before. And you go, I love it, I want to write an offer. Great, no problem. The continuation period does not exist because that property was not shown to you by that first agent. So hopefully that makes sense. Here is broker is paying a referral fee related to representation of buyer. This is a new thing. This would be like if I'm representing you as a buyer and you got referred to me, I would have to check this and say, hey, I'm getting a referral fee for doing this. Cancellation rights. This is a really important one as well. So if you want to get out of one of these, agreements, and you're like, but it's exclusive and I'm locked into this thing. Well, here you go. Exclusive cancellation effective 30 days after receipt. So this is these agreements are good for a maximum of 90 days if they're exclusive. So let's say you have a 90-day exclusive agreement and after like day 10, you're like, this guy sucks. Like this agent's terrible. They don't call me back. They don't respond to me. They suck. Well, what you could do is you could send an email. Email is the best because it's in writing. You can also send a text message. It's in writing too, but email is really the best. You might even want to copy in the broker of the office as well and say, hey, you know what? Thank you for your assistance, but I would like to terminate our buyer broker agreement effective immediately. Then from the day that's sent, it's 30 days. So you're still on the hook for 30 days if it's an exclusive agreement. Now, this is where you need to be careful. Again, this is an area where it can't really scam you, but they could kind of rope you into something that maybe you didn't want. If this is checked and this is checked and this says something like 80 days. Oh, but see, it can't exceed 30. So there you go. So you could make it lower. You could make it 15. You could make it 5, whatever you want, right? But the important thing to know is that by default, it's 30. A good thing for a buyer, what you might want to do is you might want to say, I'll make it exclusive, but if I send you notice that I want to cancel, it cancels within 1 day after receipt. That way, I'm breaking up with you on this day. The breakup takes effect immediately. The other way, if this is blank and doesn't have anything and it's just like this, it's basically like saying, I'm breaking up with you, but I'm telling you I'm breaking up with you, but we're not broken up until 30 days from now. So if you want to look at a house for the next 30 days, your hands are kind of tied. So one of the nice parts is, if you are a buyer and you're not sure about your agent, this number, you want this box checked and you want this to be a low number, 1 or 3 or 5 or maybe 10, but you probably don't want it to just be left at 30. Now, if it's a non-exclusive agreement, the cancellation is effective upon receipt by default. So this, you don't want to be filled in at all. That way, if it's a non-exclusive agreement, you could just say, hey, Joe, I like you. You're a nice guy, but you know what? You're not the agent for me. And I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm dissolving this relationship. If it's not exclusive, see again, non-exclusive, then that cancellation takes effect immediately. This one here, G2, basically says that if the buyer does not have funds to pay the broker, because again, by default, when you sign this agreement, right? By default, when you sign this agreement, it is saying that you are agreeing to pay the buyer's agent whatever, 2%, 10,000, 5,000, $3, whatever you agree on, you're paying it. Now, when you write the offer, your agent should check a box, and you should confirm this, that says, hey, in this offer, I'm asking the seller to pay for my buyer's agent fees. So this is basically saying that if the buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay the broker, you could check this box. And right here from the beginning, it says buyer's broker's obligation to represent buyer in a transaction is contingent upon a seller's agreement to pay that amount. So if this box is checked and the buyer says, dude, I don't have $18,000 to pay you for your fee, I can say, okay, that's fine, but we're going to check this box. And if we agree to it, and we ask the seller, I say, oh, no, don't worry, the seller will pay for it. And we make an offer and we ask the seller, and the seller says, no, like, I'm not paying that. Well, the agent could say, okay, you know what? You've already said you can't pay me. The seller says they're not going to pay me. I'm really sorry. I don't work for free, so I'm not going to represent you. Because if this box is checked right here that says, hey, I don't have funds, and it has to come from the seller, if that box is checked, and the seller says, I'm not paying, as an agent, I might have to work for free, and I'm not going to do that. So something to be aware of. The rest of this stuff is kind of like just basic stuff. All this, how to cancel, right to compensation, and it just kind of explains it a little bit further. There's other portions to the buyer broker agreement that you're going to see. For instance, when we get down here, buyer's investigation advisory, this just says that, hey, like, it's really important to get a home inspection. This goes with the buyer broker agreement because this is something that buyers should know about before they even look at homes. Like, you should get a home inspection. So that's part of it. This one also says broker compensation advisory, just says, a broker may represent both buyer and seller. What does that mean? How does the listing agent compensation work? It's fully negotiable, all of those things. This one says that there's just multiple people that could be buying or selling houses. There could be multiple buyers. There could be multiple people interested in buying the same house. There could be multiple sellers, multiple people selling homes in the same area. There could be multiple people selling the same home, things like that. And then there's a consumer privacy notice that just says we don't share your information. So all of this makes up the buyer broker agreement. But really, guys, where you want to spend your time, if you are getting this sent to you, or if this is getting put in front of you by an agent, where you want to spend a bulk of your time is all the way up here. See all this paperwork they make you do? Jeez. You really want to pay attention to page 1 and page 2. These are the most important pages, and really page 1, all these boxes. Now, guys, you might not see a standard buyer broker agreement. It could be one that a real estate firm has created on their own. It might not be standardized. If that is the case, very, very diligently read through it. If you feel like something's not right, do 2 things. The first thing you should do is you should take that agreement, upload it into ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT if there are any items of concerns in this buyer broker agreement. Is there anything that would be that could potentially be hurtful for you as the buyer or the client? And have ChatGPT analyze and summarize that agreement. Start there. If you want to go one step further, then you really should go see a real estate attorney. Have them look over the buyer broker agreement, or really any attorney, but really a real estate attorney. Have them look over the buyer broker agreement, make sure you understand everything, and go from there. Worst case scenario, if you don't want to get an attorney involved and ChatGPT doesn't spit out what you need, you can also take the buyer broker agreement and maybe just show it to another agent and say, hey, does this look about right to you? And see what they say. So there are a few things that you can do. But guys, this is a binding contract. If you sign this, you are on the hook to pay someone some money. Now, the goal is that when you buy the home, you negotiate that the seller pays the money, which you will probably have a pretty good chance at doing, a very good chance at doing, in fact, but it's not guaranteed. So just be aware moving forward, because if you just think, oh, I'm just signing this because it means this agent can show me, and I understand that they're going to get their 2% from the seller. That's not what this says. This says that they're going to get their 2% from you, but they'll try to get it from the seller, or whatever the amount is. I'm using 2% as an example. It's not fixed by law. It's all negotiable. I have to tell you that. But this just says that if that seller doesn't give it to you, guess what? You are on the hook. What's 2% of 500 grand? Like this is some money that we're talking about. So you want to be very, very careful about that. All right, guys, I know this stream was a little bit different. Let me know what you thought about it. I know that, maybe a little bit more education based. It's not quite as fun or hip or fast. A lot of, kind of legal stuff to look at, but I want to keep you guys informed. I want you guys to know what's going on. And really, most importantly, I don't want you guys to get taken advantage of. I don't want you guys to get scammed by BS realtors or sleazy people. Oh, thanks, Mom. Glad you liked it. So I don't want you guys getting taken advantage of. I want to make sure you guys have the ability and can take power and be able to protect yourself so you don't feel like you're helpless when someone is shoving papers in front of your face because you want to go see a home. So I know this is a little bit different stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back again with the stream next week, of course. It'll probably be our last one. This will be right before. Oh, actually, next week is Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving Eve. It's Christmas Eve. So I will not be streaming on Christmas Eve. Maybe we'll do something on Tuesday. Maybe we'll do a fun thing on Tuesday if time permits. We'll get back into Zillow. We'll look at some more crazy houses. We'll do some house hunting on Zillow. And of course, I'm sure I'll be able to find some new real estate news article to bring to you guys. So hope you all are having a wonderful week. If I don't get on Tuesday's stream, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays. That's it for me. Can't forget, I almost forgot the very, very most important thing. Gotta do this. If you guys are out there and you need a very good real estate agent, and whether or not you're talking about in this area or a different area, well, I got you covered. Don't worry. Go to workwithjoerealtor.com. I'm putting the link in the comments right here. You can go to that website, click on any one of these buttons, and you will get to a form. That form will ask you some questions, and I will get you connected with a great real estate agent all across the United States. And I have some international connections as well if you're looking to go out of the country. So if you want to work with a good agent, if you want to work with a real agent that knows what they're doing, and you don't want to just close your eyes and point on Zillow and hope you point to the right agent, let me do the work for you. I will research the agent. I'll research what you're looking for. I will interview agents for you, and I will get you in contact with them so that you have the best success possible when it comes to your real estate endeavor. If you are local to LA County, Orange County, Riverside County, or San Bernardino County, if you are in Southern California, guess what? We can work directly together. How cool would that be? You get to work with me. I get to work with you. It'd be so fun. Shoot me, go to my Work with Joe Realtor website, fill out the form, and I will be in touch with you guys. All right, my dudes, that's it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks so much for giving me your very valuable time. Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Be nice out there. The streets are kind of congested right now. People are flying around for the holidays, lots of parties and stuff. Please, please, please be careful out there on the roads. Please be mindful. Please be nice. Try to carry some of that holiday cheer around for everyone. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Be nice to everyone. See you guys maybe next week. See you next time. Bye.